You got your food in?
Yeah, yep.
All
Or two.
yeah, all
Uh,
energized.
yep.
Yeah, my phone is like right next to my ear, but apparently I just slept through that for about 2 hours, so
And worse. I'm
it
also
happens.
kind of getting over illness, so
Oh, you
been
too?
coughing
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff too. Yeah, not as bad as yours, but
is the season. Well, I don't know. I could be just overplaying it and faking it tremendously. Who
yeah.
knows?
Well, mine only lasted like 2 days, so
Oh, okay, yeah. That's not too bad. Probably like 3 days where I
yeah.
had yeah. If I had like moved from the couch to the chair, I'd be like, well, now I have to be in the chair for like 3 hours just to gather the energy to move again in a bit. It was really it was really
hmm
rough. All right, but enough of that. Let's do something productive and more upbeat and look at you on your Buccaneer in Hyperion. And yeah, tell me a little bit about your current situation and what I can do for you.
Yeah. So probably a similar story. Like played a long time ago in middle school or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
then didn't play for a while, and then the last time I played like more modern MapleStory was probably a year or so ago. I think it was like I don't know. It was a Hyperburn, but I forget which patch it was.
Mm-hmm.
Or not Hyperburn, sorry, just Terrorburn. So I think I
Terrible.
made a dual blade, because that was in that time frame where dual blade was like, you Google which character is best right now or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I liked playing it before, but so I got that to like 220 something, and then didn't really get very far as bosses go. Um, and then stopped playing for a while, and then picked it up again for the Hyperburn.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hit 265 like yesterday, and then this morning did the Arcus prequest and stuff so I can get more symbols. Um, yeah, I did some fancy labeling for the Droprate miso stuff
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I was trying to
I don't know
figure
if
out
it
like
makes it a
what is
little
this? Oh
confusing.
yeah, I
I
can
have a
see. Yeah.
legend, it's very. So the
Mm-hmm.
red ones are like whatever I'm wearing for damage set, and then green is drop and yellow is meso.
Yep.
Um,
Gotcha.
so anyway, I'm basically I'm not really in a rush to progress or anything. I just kind of want to do
Mm-hmm.
things efficiently. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I I've been since it's Hyperion and everything's new. I kind of grinded Legion for a while, so I got up to like 6K last week or two.
Okay.
Trying to abuse the event, all the haste and
Yeah.
XP stuff. Um,
Yeah.
the grid on the left there, it was that one piece on the left is just what the Legion solver spit out. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of bothered me a little bit, but um,
Well, as you
I don't
get
know if maybe
grow
the
more
IED is
and
more optimal. I don't know, but.
I mean, yeah, if it's in your bossing setup, it's
Mhm.
probably yeah. If you're just gonna bleed over into anywhere, Buccaneers really don't need any crit rate, right? So any
Yeah.
IED will probably gain you a little bit of damage.
Yeah. Um, so anyway, so like I got Legion up, and then I have all the major links and like level 200 210s that I needed. I
Mm-hmm.
think the last one I'm trying to do today and tomorrow is the Luminous to get towards closer to 210 for the level 3 link, but that one's
Mm-hmm.
not as important for me, so
Yeah, I mean, when you get into the further you get into the game, the more the really small things start being the more important
yeah.
things. But it is good also to keep, a little bit of a meta overview and be like, in the grand
Mhm.
scheme of things, it's not like I'm gaining 10% final damage from like
Yeah.
5% IED and something.
Yeah. And then I think the Aaron is the last one that I need to get to 210 eventually, but like since I'm not going to be grinding a lot of early levels anymore, I feel like it's
Hmm.
not really high priority either.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then I don't know, as far as like where I'm at currently bossing, I haven't joined any parties. I've just been soloing everything. So I've soloed up to normal, lucid, and I think I did easy will. I think I do normal will. I just phase 3 didn't feel like trying it more than one or two times.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just I don't know. I think I have the damage. It's just like I don't know. Do I want to get all the way to phase 3 like 3 times and then
Yeah.
do easy anyways? I don't know.
Hmm.
Because easy and normal, there's not a big difference, right? It's just, I mean, as far as like drop or miso is like a little bit more miso, but
Yeah, the easy versions don't drop the droplets, right? The boss droplets that you
Forever.
will need to make the arcanes. So that's why a lot of people, if you're doing solo progress, people go like one boss at a time, but they'll move from easy to normal fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Because you want to, because you will need those arcanes definitely if you're solo progressing. But also because you can, you know, especially with 6-job and with origin skills, you get around that point pretty quickly, and then the easy bosses just, they become real easy real quickly, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not like, you know, fixed on solo progression. I just, up to this point, I haven't really, you know, had a reason to. Like I joined a guild, and I think there's a lot of people run bosses in there, so I have the option to. I just, you know, haven't really needed to go fast enough to feel like doing that. But so one of my questions was, you know, what should I look to solo next, and then also what should I be looking to join parties for? Like, you know, could I start doing hard lucid will parties, or is that a little later? I don't know.
Yeah, so, well, you are in
Yeah,
Hyperion, so, but it's also a reboot server, right? So you basically just follow the exact same thing. There's a little bit of a shift towards, you know, more power creep, 6-job and stuff that came like at the same time as Hyperion came. So you're going to be on a slightly different pace. But I did update the... I'm not saying it's perfect at this point, but like the progression and the dailies commands as well, and like the level requirements to be more in tune with the changes to the level difference penalties between reboot and non-reboot, right? That changing. And then at the same time also 6-job incorporating a lot of damage, but also a lot of people being hyperburns, being just rocket propelled into level 260, and then they might not have as many of the dailies and the weeklies yet, so that kind of cancels against the initial rush of damage you get, and it takes a little bit closer to like 265 to 270 before it kind of like catches up with other people who've been, you know, who might have been level 265 or 270 in that area for a long time already when 6-job came out, and then immediately were able to jump into that. So I guess we could see to which extent you have been kind of quote unquote like following the order.
Forget I did normal gloom too. I can solo that. That was more pretty easy. Just, I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to how long it took, but I think it was like 10 minutes on that order, so it wasn't too boring.
Yeah, I had a private session yesterday as well, and someone was like, they kind of like lose focus and lose desire to kill the bosses when it starts taking like around 15 minutes or longer, and I'm like, I'm way up there with you. If it's like the hardest boss in the game and it's got like great drops, you know, and you got like a group of 6 people and you try to clear it, that's one thing. Or it's like Black Mage, you know, it's like a monthly thing and you can kind of like power through it if it's like 20 to 25 minutes. But if it's just a solo boss, maybe one time to know if you can do it, but then I think a lot of people are in a situation where it's like, well, I know I can do it, but I don't want to be in there for 20 minutes, so I'm just going to either find a duo, and if I can't find a duo, I'll just do a lower level difficulty or just not do the boss at all if I don't feel like it that week, you know?
Yeah,
and that's very reasonable, I think. So, okay, we see Easy Lucid here, Helix, Slime, Normal Lucid, and I think I've got Gloom quite a bit lower here, but in levels it's pretty close. It just looks like a lot of distance, but it's basically from like 245 to like the early 260, mainly because it's just so much easier with that jump. And then for Hard Will, of course, these are like party bosses, and then Gloom goes back to like being a solo boss, so that's why it seems a little bit backwards. Normal Darknell is in there as like the next step beyond Gloom. And another one.
There's more mechanics, like more stuff flying at you. Is it a lot more health too, or is it?
It's not that much more health. It's just like as his HP gets lower and lower, he will summon more of the dudes around. Yeah, but they made the same change to Darknell that they did to Gloom. That the balls that are falling are visible on top of the map, like in Lotus, before they start falling. And that gives you a lot more time to respond and to react to things. The main thing that boss fight is really good for is learning to see more subtle differences in the attacks. I don't have like great hands, and what took for me the longest was to figure out when his sword is like tilted at a slightly different angle, that means he's going to do a different attack. And you have to dodge them very differently, respect them very differently. If you don't, then you just can die to stuff, or you get knocked back into other stuff, and then, you know, wombo combo into an early grave. So there are a lot more boss fights like that later that have kind of similar animations. where you'll have to respond quickly to which animation it is. And I think Dark Null is a really good teaching form or teaching medium for that. The other boss is usually around the same time if you want to start soloing is like Hard Lotus.
Okay.
And then Hard Damien is around the same area, but yeah, depending on your kit, he might take a lot longer. So Hard Damien here I've got like at a lower level because the skill level required is less, because Hard Damien is basically just normal with way more HP and that's it. But Lotus is also quite a bit harder because it just drops way more stuff from the ceiling. So you have to have a little bit better understanding of the mechanics and a better manipulation of Lotus and his positioning. And yeah, there's a bit more of a class diff there, right? If you have a dark side class, they could just like jump into everything that falls from the sky. They're not quite playing the same difficulty level as the rest of us.
Right.
So so for those classes might be a little bit faster, but those are probably the bosses that you want to be looking at. The same thing, the thing for Hard Lotus and Hard Damien is that the first runs might take a little bit longer, but especially for Hard Damien, you might just find that throwing a few more bodies at the problem and kind of like jumping in and kind of abusing your 10-second respawn invincibility and stuff, because you have 10 lives, can speed up your run quite a bit, especially, like being close to the boss, Lord of the Deep, and kind of just, not being afraid, because buff freezers are free, right? So not being afraid to just die 5 or 6 times just to get a little bit more damage in. And then I don't know if you didn't see if you have any boss rings already.
No. I have like a level 2, like not worthless one or whatever, but that was I only got the one box I think.
It's still early levels, of course. It's not like it's a bad thing that you don't have it. It's pure RNG, of course. But once you get those, you become way more concentrated on making sure that you perform your bursts well, and a lot more of your damage will come from that. If you can get like a Roar 3 or something, or a Weapon Jump 3 or higher, and then you can perform your big lightning orbs, then that's another level of on your origin. That's another level of how quickly you can blow through those bosses. And that's usually when you start feeling like, oh, these bosses are so fast now, like everything is just like a few minutes. Then that means that, for Hard Lotus and Hard Damien, of course, that's nice, because that means you can probably do them at any time of the day. You probably don't even need your guild skills for them. So you can be a bit more flexible throughout the week on when you run them. But for the other ones, that means that for the Tenebrous bosses, you can start looking for hard Tenebrous bosses, because even normal Vihilla with a party is probably going to be decently close after that, together with like Sea Slime and normal Vihilla. Still like the pitch is out there, but for Sea Slime, it'll be a good idea to get like used to the extra damage it deals compared to a normal. Because you'll want to get like a small party Sea Slime as early as possible, so you can get slime backup rings. This will take pressure off of needing superior Gollux coins, so that you can dedicate those fully towards 21 and 22 superior, and you don't have to do the whole transfer thing, through an extra superior and then into the Sea Slime. So trying to get into like a 3-man, 4 at the most, I would say, Sea Slime party, but like 2 to 3 man ideally. If you can work towards that, that'll definitely help with building backups for the future. And then depending on how you do, of course, and how you make the agreement with your party member or members, you'll see whenever events come up that you'll have different options for upgrades. And that's really what you want, right? You want to have options so that you can just see what makes sense for the budget that you have at the time.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the great things with the power creep and with the 6 job and everything that's been possible, that people are able to do small party and even solo Sea Slime way earlier, and that takes pressure off of the accessories. And that means that because you'll enter pitch waiting room a lot earlier, but that means that you don't have to sit there just twiddling your thumbs, but you can still actively work on your superior more, so that, also when you do get the pitch, you can go 22 or nothing at that point, because that'll be the only way for it to be an upgrade. So you also don't have to sit like in purgatory of like, do I keep a 19? Do I go for 21? You can have more clear upgrade goals at that point.
Okay. So sea slime, is that something I should start trying to find a trio for soon, or is that
So
after
if
I kind of
so if you
do
do normal, like how fast do you kill it?
pretty fast? I mean, like uh honestly, like around the time it takes to do its first like you know waterfall
First
thing.
test. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah, if you can
Um,
kill before first test, I would say start looking for a Sea Slime party for like a 3-4 man. Yeah.
okay, and then hard, lucid, and will, is that something I should? How big of a party should I be trying for that? Duo or trio?
I'd probably look for around the same size party and you just kind of assess it from there, like
Okay.
3 to 4 men. The main thing there is that the twilight marks are kind of in the same position as the slime rings, right? Like the ring boxes are great that they are instanced, but you want to start looking at seeing if you can get some twilight marks and have a reasonable face accessory so that you're you don't have as much pressure on needing to get the berserk. But you'll probably get into hard Lotus and hard Damien. Probably mathematically can already do it, right? But the main question is going to be like, do you want to do it every week, and how long of a runs do you want? But for
Yeah.
hard Lotus and hard Damien, I'm way less eager to tell people like find like a duo or a trio partner there, unless you have someone who doesn't really need the drop and they just want to get the quick run or something. But cutting your progress there potentially for pitched in half but you get like the same crystal value whether you're solo normal or duo hard. So yeah, for me it's more one of those things where if you find someone who wants to do it, you can duo it, but otherwise I would just personally just solo normal in like 30 seconds and then just get it over with and then try again next week kind of thing, because they're so close together. But that's a personal preference thing, right? When you really have like one character that can do those bosses, you probably have a little bit higher of a bar of like, this is how much time I'm willing to spend for this character for potential progress. But once you have like 4 or 5 characters that can do it, you'll be like, you have a different equation on time management that you're doing there.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot
And
of stuff
for-
opening up for you with like early 6 job, and it'll move pretty quickly too. It'll be possible that you do like hard lucid with a party of 4 and you're like, okay, this is way too easy. Like by 2 or 3 weeks with like a few upgrades, I could probably solo it, and but you want to be just clear in communicating with your party, whether it's just like a one-time thing or if it's just a test to see how strong everyone is. Or one thing that we did when you have like a 2 or 3 man is sometimes someone will say like as a joke like, oh, I'm gonna solo it, and you just kind of let them solo for P3 and just kind of see how they do, and then if it's clear by like the last 15 seconds or something, like this is like not happening, and then everyone else throws their burst in and then you can still just get your clear. But sometimes it's cool to just let someone try in like a controlled environment like that, and then that the backup is there, and whether they're kind of close or not close at all, so that's
okay,
yeah,
interesting.
that's something you can do.
Never heard of that. So in general, are all equipment drops usually not instanced, and like sometimes boxes are, or is there a pattern, or is it different for each boss?
Yeah, so as you will find out with most of Maple, there's mostly patterns, but never all. It's kind of like learning a language where there's like the rules and then there's the list of the exceptions kind of thing.
Yeah.
So typically if it drops as a box, it's really okay. If the equip is something that any class can wear, then there's a very high chance that it's shared, so that everyone sees it and that only one person can get it. So so pitch accessories, for example, but that includes like the boxes where you have to select the pitch accessory from. So Saren emblem, Bucc for hard will, so all of the pitch stuff. All of the pitch stuff is shared, yeah. So for that, you have to either, some people do is blink, right? So depending on your positioning with the random blink, or you have a loot rotation beforehand if you gotta have a static party for a longer period of time. Sometimes people do static, like a loot rotation, and then just every week it's the next person, just to keep it fair that way. If things drop from boxes, like armor boxes and weapon boxes, those are all instanced, and those are all not affected by drop rate. So it's just like the more
what I'm worrying about.
Yeah, Abzo, Arcanes, that kind of stuff. So the harder the boss is, the higher the chances, but your drop rate doesn't matter for that. For the pitched ones, drop rate does matter. And Similar to the armor boxes is also the ring boxes in Reboot. Those are also all instants, so everyone can get their own ring box. But those are affected by drop rate. So as soon as you start doing decent bosses, you just want to always switch into drop rate gear, because your personal drop rate is what determines the drop rate for the instanced pieces, when the drop rate for the shared pieces is determined by the person who did the most damage to the box at the moment that it got killed.
Okay, so even if somebody else is breaking the box, you still want to put your drop rate stuff on?
Yeah. So for some bosses, you might not care as much. You know, if you're just like a mule joining a run with like a, I don't know, something that drops up to like maybe a red jade box, which has pretty shitty rates. But I've pulled a roar 4 from a red jade box, so there's still a chance. So you want to increase your chances as much as possible. So basically, everyone just always switches to drop rate. The other stuff that it'll affect is like soul shards, which, you know, it's already kind of a long process to get a decent amount of magnificent souls, and you'd want to give yourself decent chances, you know, all the way through, so that when you get your arcane weapon and then much later you get your Genesis weapon, that you have a bunch of magnificent souls to throw in there to make sure you get those, you know, the 3% weapon or magic attack that you're looking for.
Okay.
Anything else with instanced and shared? Oh yeah, so that's for weekly. So the one kind of weird exception is that for daily bosses, your pets will typically only loot the things that are instants, or they will only loot the things that you can loot that are instants, right? So the shared stuff, your pets won't automatically loot. So you can keep your pet loot on, and it won't automatically loot something unless you're like manually pressing the loot button.
Mm-hmm. So daily
for
bosses
weekly
only?
stuff. Yeah, weekly bosses. So the one exception there is like Helix, where you can make like party leader loot and party leader loot only and all of that stuff, but your pets will still just yoink everything if someone has a fact pet or something. Because that's exceptional, and because it's not in Korea, that doesn't seem like that's going to get fixed anytime soon. That's also not, well, it's also not a prevalent like crossover. But if you're ever running that, just be careful with like pets and looting there. The one thing that's kind of like a weird exception is that Dominator pendants are instanced, so everyone who's in the run can get one. So you probably never hear this, but if someone with high drop rate is doing Arc and they're like, hey, anyone want to join normal Arc for for a Dominator, that's actually a good thing to join on a low level character with someone who has way more drop rate. But that's something that you see rarely, because very few people actually know about that, or need that, because you can kill normal Arc super quickly, of course. So yeah.
So like if you're like guild capping or something, you do a duo Arcarium or something.
Oh yeah, something, yeah. Or if you're doing like a daily boss run, so you're basically just doing Helix, normal Arc, and then maybe depending if you're looking for soul shards as well, you could be doing like normal Queen, normal Vellum, normal Magnus, and you'd be like, I'm doing all this with drop rate, and your character maybe has like 300%, and you're doing that daily, and then someone else is like, oh, I have a mule that can also like use a Dominator pendant, but the character only has like 60% drop rate or something. You could just join, and then even though it is instance, the drop rate is because it's a daily, it's affected by the killer again, I think. Okay. So you would have more chance. Yeah, it's a cool system.
Yeah, pretty niche, I guess, but
yeah, very niche.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I don't think we drop instance shared. Oh, I guess there's one new drop, right? The polishing stone. So that's also a shared one. So that's something that people are careful for now. Polishing stone helps upgrade your rank 4 rings into rank 5s.
Okay.
So that's something also to know on those higher level bosses. That drops from, I think, normal. I don't know if it drops from easy Kalos, but it's like normal. Definitely from normal Kalos and above. But you can see most of those important drops now if you check the boss content, right? You can see on the right side the drops there. And you can see where you go into that next tier of those boxes. Like the green jade ring box from normal Darknell and also drops from Akechi because, you know, clearly the same tier boss, right?
Yeah.
And then starting at Hard Damien until, I think, yeah, normal Vihila and Hard Will. And then the harder box up to Seren.
Is Hard Damien like in this context a higher tier than Lotus? Like, does Lotus still drop the lower one, or is it higher?
For ring boxes that drop so Hard Damien and Hard Lotus are in the same tier pretty comfortably.
Okay. So another reason to try to get to soloing those faster.
Yeah, just the chance for the pitches is nice. But you'll you know, Lotus also has the chance for the damaged Black Heart, which if you ever want to get into the endgame and pitch and stuff, the sooner you start gathering those, because they only last for 20 days. They're all temporary, so you can never really have too many of those.
Okay. Is that like a coupon type thing? Like you open it or something and then you have that many days, or is it from the day?
Yeah, it's an etc. item, like a destroyed item.
Okay.
And then you trade it in the scrapyard, and then it turns into an equip for 20 days.
Okay.
But the etc. item is completely time unlimited, so you could just transfer it, put it in storage, and yeah, put it on a mule until you're ready to get going on that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, where's that polishing? Oh yeah, here you can see the polishing stone. So it starts at Easy Kaling and Easy Kalos. Grindstone of Life, sorry, that's the official name.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very rare from those easy bosses. But the easy bosses will become doable much sooner than you think if you have like a full 6-man party. And because they already drop like half of a eternal piece, you will start progressing on that pretty quickly. The problem is just, the sacred power, right? You're just very heavily gated with sacred power. You're starting to build up now. Compared to your level, you're going to have really good sacred power. Back in the day when we were in those areas, a lot of the areas came out with like 5 symbols a day, and that's it. So the fact that at 260 you can start with 20 symbols a day, that gives you a nice nice running start. And then event shops, of course, actually exist with with symbols in them, and a lot of symbol circulators, right, this event. So I'm assuming your sacred power is already
I did
quite nice.
I think I used a decent amount of them on arcane symbols still, but I saved a decent amount also for sacred. But I mean, so like level 6, and then the Arcus one's level 2 now that I did this morning since I got the just did the pre-quests and whatever.
Yep. Nice. Yeah, that's going to be the thing, because even for Saren, you probably want to have like 160 at like the lowest probably to start getting in there. So that's really still the kind of the time gate. So that's going to be a combination of like the stats that you see here on the progression grid. Try to keep it focused on the most important stats. I could probably add like 20 more metrics to this, right? Like amount of boss mules, amount of weekly income. You know, there's like a whole bunch of stuff you could add.
Yeah.
But I did want to keep it rather focused. And even with flames, there's like, 3 columns just for flames.
Right.
Just because of the discrepancy between them. So that if you keep roughly on track with those metrics within the level, then these levels here are good indicators of like around where you can start trying the boss fights. And of course, there'll be class difference and there'll be party composition differences and all that. But to give you a rough estimate on when you can start thinking about going to the next going to the next chapter, I guess. Next challenge.
Cool. So I think I had one. I have a little list of things as far as bossing goes. The Will of Erda, the V skill. Like, is there any use case for that for the bosses that I'm looking at now? I haven't really been using it much, but I've just been leveling it up as I get extra nodes for it. Yeah,
most of the Erda skills, I would say they're good to just use doubles on, but not actively really craft for them. Especially as a Bucc, you've got so many good skill nodes that just scale with you so well, right? You've got the big 3 here, not the dash as much, and then also flag and overdrive also keep scaling with you with your level, so you've got plenty to work on.
Right.
And God is blessing then as well, right? Because of the uptime and the DPM increase. So there's plenty of stuff for you to work on. Will of Erda is useful as a preventative. I don't use it as much when you're already getting CC'd by something. The one thing I'll use it for is if I get pushed into the corner in hard will and like sealed by those webs, you can cleanse out of that and then jump out and then heal again immediately and maybe prevent a death or two. So I like it for that. But for most of the other stuff, I use it preventatively. So you can think about once you get really in tune with the animation for like hard lucid solo for the bombs, for example, you can press it preemptively and not get the bomb on you at all. That can save you a life whenever you use that. That could be once or twice per run. So that could be nice. Getting stunned by things that would then afterwards kill you. So like the laser beam in slime, for example, if you're doing sea slime. If you're like, you know, the rocks falling on your head, that's stun. And then the laser after that, if you press that skill ahead of time, you could still jump out because you won't die to like one hit by the laser, right? It's more just getting constantly hit by it that kills you.
Mm-hmm. But you won't you wouldn't get bound by the laser if you have, is that?
Yeah, exactly. The stun won't happen, so you can still just jump out of it, be safe, and then heal up, and then, you know, you won't have the combination of the rock and the laser, and then slime teleporting on top of you, and then doing another laser, or just it's usually there's just a combination of things, right? So the will skill will help you kind of make sure that the boss is set up of the original thing that it seems like a small thing that can get you killed. You can almost look at it very similarly as like Seavel, right? It's not a very scary boss, but in the beginning, if you ever get hit by a rock, you're mostly dead. After that, right? So you could use it to prevent the stun of the rock, and then just jump away, and then all of the bad stuff that's supposed to happen after that just don't happen. But I will mostly use it in like Tenebris, not in Hilla at all, but I'll mostly use it in Gloom and Darknell. Sometimes there's just like a curtain of those balls coming down, and they don't really do that much damage, but they might get you sealed or blinded, and then all of your damage will miss. Or in Gloom, you know, the blue balls on the side that will just drag you into the laser, right? So for those, you can also use them preemptively. If you do end up in a shitty situation, then you just don't get stunned at all. Or if you're bursting and a blind ball is about to hit you when you're up there in Gloom, and you're like, oh, I don't want to have to move. I'll just pop the skill and just keep attacking, right? And don't lose my DPS. Although Gloom's hitbox is really big, so dashing out of the way is definitely an option. But sometimes because of the angle of the leg that you're standing on, you know, the tentacle, there I'll just use it. And it's more because you have it, and then you can kind of just, you know, between this one and the Explorer one you have, right? Just use one just so that you can make the bosses a little bit more streamlined. But, you know, if you have better reaction speeds, you could dash out of the way as well. But repositioning a lot of the times will also lose your damage. So if you don't have to, and you can just slam that skill instead, you'll get to a point where...
I forgot about the Explorer one. I don't even have that equipped.
Yeah, that one is an even shorter cooldown, so it's a good one to have those two somewhere reachable on your keyboard, because you'll mostly get used to them and really want them once Black Mage comes around. And once you start practicing for that, they're very useful there, because they will prevent you from taking curses, and curses will get you killed without even dying. So you can lose a lot of lives by getting hit by things of the opposite curse than the one you already have on you. And the will skills will save you a lot of lives in the beginning when you're getting used to those mechanics.
Okay.
Yeah, like Luffy in the chat said, like, for most people, they only really start using them for Black Mage, but then it's like an extra muscle memory that you have to teach yourself once Black Mage is starting, which is already throwing a lot of stuff your way at the same time. So if you can get into the habit of, like, at least already knowing muscle memory-wise where those skills are and using them every now and then as a reaction time during, like, Tenebris and Citene, then for Black Mage you'll have one fewer thing on your plate to learn at the same time, yeah.
Alright, sounds good.
Yep. And, yeah, the Explorer one, yeah, that's just double use, because they have pretty long cooldowns, so it's good to have both of them active.
Okay.
Other than that, the Matrix looks good.
Yeah, I've got one boost node done, and then the 224s are like 80 or 90%.
Mm-hmm.
Of the last 23. And I'm trying to get the, what's it called? Howling Fist.
Yeah.
Maxed out so I can boost it in the Hexamatrix.
Yeah, that's the one thing that is one of the other kind of unattended side effects of leveling so quickly and getting into 6 jobs so quickly is that very few people could actually max out most of their useful skill nodes so that your boost nodes on the Hexamatrix kind of get delayed.
Yeah. So I'm like, basically did the opposite, did the boost nodes first just because opening node sends have so many of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just following the order in the Bucc Discord for the 6 job stuff. So I'm at the point now where switching between, I'm supposed to level up Howling Fist next, but I can't, so I just kind of skipped it for now and leveled up Octopunch more.
Yeah, it's the percentages of like how much final damage these things give can be really, really close together. But of course, just the level 1 boost node in Hexamatrix is really nice with that 11% final damage immediately.
Yeah, so I don't know, like now that the boost nodes are pretty much done, should I start just crafting to get Howling Fist up, or I don't know, because like Flag and Overdrive, I really like to get those higher too, but just like I think I could see those having maybe more of an impact than Howling Fist getting 10 or 11%, but I'm not sure, obviously.
Well, I think for Overdrive, you'd want to have a arcane weapon before a high level there really starts working for you, because it's like based on the base
attack.
Base weapon attack. So, and because Knuckles are already so low, I think really putting levels in that until you have an arcane or have like a straight line towards an arcane weapon is just not as useful. The Flag is nice, but you have to, because it's like extra stat for you and your party, and also ID for the boss, but that does mean that you have to stand, as a Bucc, of course, you're going to stand really close to the boss, but it'll feel a bit like, like a Lucid P2 Flag is like, she's flying all over the place, plus if the golem breaks the platform, your flag disappears, so, there's not every single situation where it's like the best thing in the world, but it is very useful. So I think for now the Howling Fist just makes more sense because it's like your 90-second and your 3-minute, so it's going to be a lot of your damage. And then probably do Flag after that and then Overdrive after that. But I would be crafting now because your boost nodes are so high. They're gonna, like you said, they're gonna level up automatically, so I would just purely be crafting at this point, the skill nodes.
Okay. And then, Flag, honestly, is just like the culvert rotation. I think that's the only time I think about it is that, and then the Punch King, because it's not 100% uptime until it's like maxed or close to max, I think. I don't know.
Close to max, yeah.
But for bossing, like I guess as long as it's up when I burst, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, the stat is nice and a little bit of extra IED, but when the uptime is higher, I think is it 20% IED and like 20% stat or something, like it actually is quite significant further on. And because it helps your party as well, it is very nice for those boss fights to just plan in on top of the boss, and then when they get bound in there, it's a nice little extra juice.
Yep. Yeah, I think as far as 5th and 6th job stuff, I think those are the main questions. Just I'll start crafting Howling Fist, and then maybe whenever that's done, I'll go back to node stones for miscellaneous nodes.
Yeah, the next thing that will happen with node stones is that you probably want to start looking at how many of my node stones do I keep like throwing on my main versus might go towards bossing mules.
Yes, that's another thing. I didn't include any like bossing mules. I have 2 or 3 Cygnus characters that I made with the intention of being bossing mules, but they're like, so like the Dawn Warrior and then Wind Archer and Nightwalker. I made the Dawn Warrior as my main bossing mule, at least that intention, and then I ended up buying a pet just because, and then I was like, well, I have a pet on the Cygnus character, so I'll just make 2 other Cygnus bossing mules so I can use the pet for all of them. But
and they're very solid as good, bossing mules.
Yeah, so like I don't, that was my only logic there. But so I put, I think like maybe 100 of the event nodes on the Dawn Warrior. I mean, like I probably should be using them on my Bucc, but I didn't really at the time. I was like, I could use an extra, thing to do each week, so why not make a Dawn Warrior?
Yeah, but bossing mule is good. Early on is just, it's gonna be a little, all the starting is going to be tricky. You're not like, getting it off an event where you're getting like a free 260, right? But if you get it to 220 or something, you get some extra symbol dailies going. You get a lot of it is going to be gear early on. You're going to get, well, you're probably already noticing that whenever you're doing your bosses and you're going to do way more bosses on the Buck, you're going to get way more cubes and flames that you can't really use on there anymore because it's just going to ruin whatever you already have. So all of that is going to start having to trickle down somewhere. So it's good to have some characters on the bench to be like, these characters, are possible bossing mules, so that you can start working on like the WSEs. You can start working towards getting some better accessories, and some base flames on all the boss accessory stuff will easily get you like 300 stat across the board, right? And then once everything gets epic, you get some better gear, you'll very easily be able to do CR8 just because of the spike of 5th job on those 3 classes, definitely. And then they can just earn their own CR8 gear, and then, but doing it like organically like that, I think gives you a good handle on how much time is this going to take per week. And at the same time, also, if you do feel like a character doesn't really fit, you can also just drop it very easily without feeling like now you're dropping like 1,000 nodes, or now you're dropping like 15 bill that you invested in a character, because then it'll feel really bad to let go of a character. So the such startup will be very slow, but you'll have a very solid foundation, and the more characters start doing the bosses, the more of the flames and the cubes that you get, and then every next character is just gonna be brought up faster and faster and just more easily. Plus, we have things like the strawberry farm coming. If the strawberry farm is more similar to Korea, where it's mostly, very well scaled, like up to 220, then that'll be very easy time for you to make a few 220s, or, get those last 200s that you were talking about, maybe 210 on like the Lumi, that kind of stuff. But they did say like that there was another, there's a chance that it's up to 260. So then if there's one specific character that you like more, that you might want to take like as a higher level boss wheel, maybe like up to 250, so you can do like Slime and Lotus and Damien very easily, maybe even easy Lucid or something like that, then that might be something that you specifically go more into. But yeah, it'll depend a little bit on the event details that we get tomorrow, plus where you feel like your time is best spent on your account right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I'm very like, I'll probably end up having a lot like more MB bossing meals, because I'm very like, daily, weekly, not big on grinding for hours a day. So like, I mean, it's a good day if I use a like small WAP and grind for 30 minutes doing my daily after I do my dailies or something. But
gotcha. Same boat.
So
yeah, and then having the good static income of 1 or 2 bossing meals a day will make sure you keep progressing.
And I don't know, as far as bossing meals go, I'll just, once I get the nodes leveled up more on here, then I'll start throwing more maybe on the other ones. I think I got most of the, like for the Dawn Warrior, I think I have the tri-node or nodes, like it has one tri-node set, right? So I got that. It's just a matter of then the extra nodes to actually level them up more. And then the Wind Archer I think that has like 3 nodes or something. And I ended up getting some weird combination that worked out to get all of them.
If you bring up like the base, if you bring up the base gear and you've got your Legion and your Links and all of that set up and your hyperstats and that's all properly set up, you can get to like just clearing 3-door very quickly, just even with like base 5th job skills, just like level 1 5th job skills, and maybe like a level 2 or level 3 boost node, like nothing else really. Even because of the experience of how to do the bosses on the higher level character, again, like that first clear is going to take a while longer, but for 3-door you just need 1 clear, right? And then you just have the 3 pieces, and then with that extra damage, then you just need like 1 more clear of C-Fel, or maybe at most 3 if you're unlucky, and then you have like full Fafnir, and then all of the money that's going to go into the character then is going to already be way more efficient. You're going to get way more flame score on CRA very easily. If there's a 30% off event, you can just send that stuff to 15 with some money that you have lying around, and then you have a 5, 10, 15 event, you can just slowly bring them up to 17. And yeah, that starting up will be slow, but yeah, once you get a few characters like that, you get some Abzu gear here and there, like Lotus and Damien is going to be very simple, just because of the damage of like your 4 5th job skills itself. Even if you're, because most of mine I started with like 100 nodes per character, and that can already get you pretty far if you have all of your other ducks in a row as well.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, and at this point, 100 nodes on your Buck is like, it could still make a lot of progress, but it's not gonna, you're not gonna suddenly kill Hard Lotus in half the time or something, right? Like it's
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
it's more just slowly leveling the nodes up at this point.
Yeah, you really want to get like a bunch of events that give you like EXP nodes on the Buck, ideally, so you could just like slam them into those
Yeah, that's true. That's
into
true.
the skill nodes. That's where they're really valuable now.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess while you have the Legion stuff up, is there anything like I have all the links and like important legions that I need? I think like some of the A ranked people at the bottom, I have there's like the Kana and the Demon Adventure that I could level up more for the boss damage, I guess. I mean, I'd like to get some of those that I got to 120 just for the link up to 140. So, but I guess I don't know whenever I hit 8K, then I can actually use them, right? Is 8K the number jump again?
Yeah, 7.5 to 8 is when you can put 5 extra characters in. Yeah.
Okay. So like
That's the
those don't
big
really
one.
matter. I mean, if those two that have boss damage, I could replace some that I have now. But as far as like leveling more of them up, it won't really matter until I hit 8K.
Yeah, pretty much. The people like to use like bonking events to also get a bunch of characters that they don't really care about from like 140 until like early 170s, because those 30 levels are pretty cheap. But yeah, you do that on 10 characters and it's another 300 Legion levels just kind of for free. So just to kind of desperate their way into 8K, and then eventually through events and stuff, eventually everything kind of makes it over to 200. But there's definitely a clear list of characters that are very useful as double S Legion blocks, and there's a bunch of other ones that, like, yeah, the S or the double S is basically the same. So if you don't like the character at all, you just kind of use them as puppets to prop up your Legion levels. And other than that, yeah.
So I think I need 3 more to get to 42 characters.
Yeah,
so
42, yeah.
I'm at the point now where I'm just looking for the ones that give strength. I think I have like Thunderbreaker, Kaiser, and then maybe Xenon as the last 3. I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty low on the list.
I have as far as main stats go.
Strength, you can see here, right? So you've got the Arc, Adele, Thunderbreaker, Hero, Paladin, Xenon, Cannoneer, Buck, and Kaiser.
Yeah, so I think Thunderbreaker, Xenon, and Kaiser are the 3 that I don't have as far as strength goes. Excuse me. And then for the what are they called? Resistance, I still need to do Blaze Wizard, or not, no, that's Cygnus. What was it called? Blaster and Battle Mage, I think.
Yeah. Where's the resistance?
Yeah, I already have Wild Hunter and Mechanic.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mentioned it before, right? Like, there is some boss fights where just jumping in and getting a bunch of free damage, because sometimes you'll die in a shitty position, but you do have some buffs on, and then having that extra few seconds of invincibility, so you could just jump in and not have to care, and basically just use it as an invincibility frame. When you have so many lives, you just kind of like throw bodies at the problem to make it go away.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Wild Hunter is a little bit of extra damage, not that much, but and so like the Blaster IED is something with the mechanic. Buff duration is very nice for some other characters as well, so it's good to have that as a double S. So people even go for once you go for like best in slot setups on Culvert and stuff like that, people will get cooldown reduction hats to make sure that they can use certain skills twice, right? Or to optimize their timing, and definitely like mechanic, extra 5% buff duration, even if it's just for having your terms and conditions last longer. It's all going to be stuff that does increase your damage, and if you can make everything do 1% more, you throw it all into a pile, suddenly you have a decent damage increase, and eventually you'll get to a point where that'll make sense. But I don't have a 250 mechanic yet, but it's definitely Yeah, if you look at where my account is, I probably should have one already, but I'm just lazy.
Hyperburn
Trading.
eventually.
Yeah, probably Hyperburn eventually. Yeah, I'm at the point now where I've got so many bossing mules where it's like, if I Hyperburn something that isn't already a boss, that is already a bossing mule, I'm getting very little value from the Hyperburn. But if I do Hyperburn something that isn't one already, then now I just have another bossing mule that's more than I already have crystals for, and that I'm already not like all doing bossing on. So it makes more sense to look for what is my account value and what would give me more value in my entire account versus just but like, I mean, the bossing mule is account value, but I'm just at the point where I'm kind of maxed out on that. I think I will do the cane because that's like my lowest level bossing mule now. That's 230, so I could still get 30 levels out of that, which I think is good value. But if there's another one after that, then yeah, I'll really have to look towards like mechanic or Mercedes, right? Mercedes also useful for the cooldown reduction.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just gonna try and grind out whatever I can before the event ends, as far as getting the extra experience and stuff goes, and then decide what to use the strawberry farm stuff on whenever that comes out. And
yeah, the details might be indicative there. We'll have to see. Well, it should be Wednesday, right? Wednesday patch.
Yep. And it's, I don't know, like maybe only 2 weeks, but maybe more. We're not sure. Just have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, KMS had it for 2 weeks, but we'll have to. There's a lot riding on that collab. If a 2 week strawberry farm, is part of a 6 week update, then there's gonna have to be something else there as well. Otherwise, it's gonna be a pretty dead update. Which I don't think most people will mind if it's a pretty dead update, because it's been really busy this whole winter. And then especially with all the extra AFK time and stuff for Abyssal, so it's going to be... I mean, it's always like that when it's like, it's either way too much, or people are like, there's nothing going on. It's like, take your breather, like recenter.
I played so much in like December and January since the new server started, getting my Legion stuff leveled up, that I'm like, I'll just do my dailies and wait until the next event happens.
Especially like you, if you start a new server, because then there's so much to do. I don't know if you saw it, but there were people on Reddit actually posting like their electricity bills differences, just
because of the AFK.
Yeah, exactly, because of keeping the Abyssal AFK, and they were like, ooh, better not show my wife.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good experience still, even at 260. Like, I've been getting like 5 or 6% a night, just sitting there.
Yeah, in hindsight, I was like, oh, maybe I should have used it on a hero or a marksman just to get him closer to 255 so I can start doing my liberation. But yeah, I did it on a level 210 battle mage, and that guy's now level 233 and probably will reach 234 with the EXP from tomorrow. So that is quite nice levels, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Another almost SS Legion piece that probably will never be one, but Legion levels is Legion levels, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. We've got the familiars here. Are you actively trying to? Because that's typically a question and like kind of like a problem is like, do I get actively a large drop rate familiar, or do I spend time in Grandis building out my 6 job?
I'm very like I said, since I don't naturally grind a lot anyways, I didn't grind a lot to get to 260, so I didn't really have a lot of kills going in Limina and stuff. So like the only familiars I was getting were from doing the dailies, basically. So like, I mean, I saved all of the ones that I could, and then every few days, if I feel like watching something for 30 minutes, I'll sit in Limina and with a small WAP and just try and get some familiars. So I think I've opened like 3 epics or something. So I mean, I know that it's like it can be a really long time. That's why I haven't really invested in it. But I'm not. My mindset isn't that I'm really trying to push levels in Grandis. So like I don't really care which of the 2 I choose. But I lean towards trying to get the drop rate as a higher priority, just since I don't like play a ton as far as at least now.
Yeah, you want every one of your weeks of your bosses to really count when you do them. If you're not that hardcore, and that large drop rate familiar will make a huge difference in the long run. And the way you also want to look at it is if the alternative is to get levels and to build out your 6 job, well, where are you going to get your fragment drops from? You know, from having the familiar on. So it all just comes back to drop rate in familiars and into your gear, right? But the gear drop rate is done, or it's close to.
Almost. Yeah, I think I don't have. I think by earrings, I don't have a drop rate on those.
Yeah, because you hit 27. Yeah, that's always a hidden 27 on those will-o'-the-wisps.
Yeah. Yeah, so I started doing Helix probably later than I should have, so I have I just bought the 3rd piece, so I'm still saving for the ring. So I need to talk about how to upgrade those eventually, but
so you bought your first piece?
Almost.
That's the first piece you bought? Yeah, you got the other 2 as a drop?
Yeah. I have two belt backups and 1 earring backup.
Okay, very
so
nice.
I guess kind of lucky. I don't really know exactly, but because like I said, I didn't start doing it until I already had a decent amount of drop rate.
Yeah, that does help.
So I don't know. It was one of the things I never did that boss on my other character last time I played, so I didn't really know how early I should start doing it. And then by the time I started doing it, I could do it in like a couple minutes. So
yeah, it's very nice for Bucc because of the P1. You know, you keep the Lorded Deep on, and then you can just Howling Fist twice very easily. And there's a little bit of a cheat as well. I don't know if people told you that, but as long as you don't get any of the purple stacks, you can still just leave the boss fight on the left side, and you could just wait for your cooldowns to come back and then jump back in and just nuke it again. That's early on for the classes that struggle a little bit more. That's a really cool cheat code to, you know, make sure that you'll spend a little bit more time. You spend 5 or 6 minutes in there, but at least you won't have those frustrating like back-to-back deaths or just keep on getting crushed and breathed on. But if you can just keep the slate clean, then all you have to do is just like leave and come back when everything's ready. So
yeah, now it's pretty smooth. It's just Howling Fist, and then as soon as I get in almost, and then whenever its first attack happens, then I hit the second proc for the iframe, and then and then just orb every time he attacks, and by the third orb he's usually dead pretty much. So.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't even need your origin. If you'd origin, you'd just destroy the whole thing.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with like remnant attacks, right? Because all of the boxes were given quite a bit more HP, but not the Gollux one, so that one dies pretty much instantly. So if you have anything that keeps like a lingering effect on, you could actually open up the box.
Like with Gollux, it's fine because when you spawn, you're like below the heart or whatever.
Yeah, you're Lord of the Deep. Yeah.
Some other bosses, it's like you change screens and then you're hitting it like start panicking. But luckily, you need to hit it a lot before it'll actually break.
Yeah, they changed it quite a bit. But since Gollux is not in Korea and since it's like from a daily, that's one of those things that's not going to get redone. So again, if you're like carrying someone or you're like exchanging, you're running with someone else and they don't know, they can accidentally open up the box very easily, and then there goes all your extra drop rate because all the Gollux stuff is also affected by the drop rate.
Yep.
So you've got let's see, you're using this one as damage, but it's got a red dot. Okay, red dot is all the damage, so that's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things. Okay, that makes sense. And then you have eye and face. So the eye is like multifunction, and the face is also multifunction right now.
Yep.
And then you have an extra eye for Mezzo. And then you have one double line on the Kana treasure. Oh yeah, that first Kana treasure that you're trying to roll damage on, probably.
Yeah, that's the only one so far that I've gotten.
Yeah. You got some pieces that you probably want to get Dropper Mezzo on, and then you just roll 3-line stat, like the Eternal Flame Ring, or like the Will-o'-the-Wisps, and then the stuff where...
Exactly. Yeah. The Eternal Flame Ring, that was like one of the first that I was trying to roll Dropper or whatever on, and just ended up hitting that. So, but in general, the event rings, do I want to re-roll those for damage once I get extra rings I can start using, or because the ones that are drop right now, they're just 1-line drop, 1-line stat maybe, so those aren't really that expensive to just turn into damage.
Well, if you're turning things into damage, yeah, the event rings are really good as like hybrid pieces where they could be either one, but eventually they do become drop and meso pieces. So we're really focus towards the basically superior ring, high star force, kind of treasuring, and then you keep the eternal ring, of course, because that one's already 30%, and the fourth slot will probably be a slime ring.
Okay.
Or if you find an Oz ring, right? If you do find an Oz ring now, then that takes a little bit of pressure off of kind of treasure rings, and you can kind of just hold on to those, and you can focus more on a slime ring. If you don't find a slime ring, then you can use the kind of treasure ring instead, and that means you can push a little bit harder on the slime ring before you feel like you have to switch to that one.
Okay.
So whichever one you get there kind of takes the pressure off the alternatives. And as a whole, I would not be looking at the reinforced ring at all, because it's barely better than like a kind of treasure ring or even a Meister ring. But again, like we talked about in the very beginning, like it takes away your Gollux coins, right? Which slows down your process into moving to 20 star, 21, 22 star superior. So once you are like at 21 and you got a bunch of coins and you maybe have some backups bought and you're like, you still don't have an endless terror, right? You maybe are still messing around with the slime ring, like it still hasn't hit. And you really only have like superior and kind of treasure, then you can start thinking of maybe like reinforced and seeing if you make a 19 or if you can make a 21, because then it'll be so much stronger than an eternal flame ring that you can very freely re-roll that ring to whatever you need at that point, whether it be drop or meso. And then but yeah, even then you'll probably barely need that. It'll probably be more in the step afterwards, because like first step is you get like drop and meso 4 and 5, or you get like 3 and 5 and use the spirit pendant, right? Yeah. What makes the most sense there for you? That first
I
setup.
really didn't focus on miso a lot, since I don't spend a lot of time grinding, so it like isn't as valuable for me, right? So I really was just trying to get the drop rate, and then the miso is just like the extra like face or whatever accessory that just happened to get it, and I kept it around. But
yeah, it's mostly important for your first character, right? Because you gotta get the whole machine going. You gotta make sure that you keep it to be a decent amount of money, and then once your bossing mules start running and that starts bringing in the most money, then you basically just want to go full drop rate. Just you make sure you keep the fragments going, keep the extra node stones going, keep the familiars going, and kind of keep the boss drops as well. So every other character after that, even if it's like a hyper burn, you're gonna get very high up. Typically kind of just skip meso obtain at that point because of the income from the bossing mules. That might shift a little if stuff from Korea does make it to GMS. We might have to reconsider a little bit, like where do we go with our investments, because some people are like, oh, meso obtain is now less worth it. I mean, in a way, but in a way it's also just more worth it, because if it's going to be a larger percentage of your total income, then it's going to be more worth to spend it on there to make sure that you can make that money in a reasonable amount of time. Because it's the base, at least in Korea right now, it's the base meso that's limited, not the total meso that you can make. So the meso obtained will just make it so that you can still hopefully live a little bit off of like getting 1 or 2 characters meso obtained. If you're a heavy grinder, right? So we'll have to kind of do the maths on that when we get more details on all of that.
yeah,
Hopefully not, but
not to think about that yet until we hear anything.
yeah, exactly. It'll be more when you're at the stage where you're trying to make like a full combination set of like 5 meso and 10 drop, maybe in 8 pieces, because you want to get the spirit ring, the spirit pendant in there. I'm not gonna open up the can of worms with the spirit ring, but so that's more when you're at that step, but we're not quite there yet. But yeah, you got your 5 meso.
The earrings, for example, I figured I'll end up using the superior earrings for damage, right? And I'll just end up re-rolling that one for drop or whatever combination I can get.
Yeah, now it's probably not good yet, but it's once you hit the 4 set, right? Then you want to switch their functionality. Yeah.
Yep. And I have, let's see. So Meister ring, is that like, that ends up being like not used for fodder, but actually taking a ring slot, or?
So that depends on how well your kind of treasurings do. It's basically another kind of treasuring, but because they're distinct items, you can have both.
Okay.
But the one big thing that you have to think about with Meister rings is that it is until you craft it, it's essentially a transferable ring, and since we don't have anything that you can transfer in terms of equips that that you can wear like that in Reboot, that is the one thing where if you ever want to play other characters, you really want to make sure that your character needs the Meister rings to progress in the current situation, because you have the kind of treasures coming in as fodder, for itself, for transfer into Superior, and then if you need to, God forbid, like in Superior into Slime, that can all be possible through kind of treasures, given enough time. But if that process for some reason takes forever, or you just can't get any rings for the life of you, again, you can still kind of postpone that project further down the road, right? Hopefully you get a Slime ring, maybe you get an Oz ring. Like, you can kind of make do. You have a high good potential Eternal ring, so you can kind of try to skip and procrastinate on that for a while. But eventually you're going to have to make a decision where it's like, okay, everything is like 21. Do I go for 22, or do I finally replace my last, eternal ring? You might have to make some Meisters, but it's something that you want to put off as long as possible. But yeah, because then at that point also, if you have enough Superior Gollix coins, then the reinforced ring can come in there as well and take that slot instead, right? Yeah, so there's Endless Terror, Slime, Oz rings.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're not... The idea is that you're not unlucky on all of those, and maybe only on one or two, and then there's still going to be enough rings to fill the set of 4. But if you're unlucky on all, then yeah, you want to use it as like a last resort and be like, okay, I'm going to use it as a Meister ring. So typically, just whenever you're doing the transfer thing, like into Superior, if you can make like what most people do is like make a 21, and then so you want to use it as a 21 if you get like a kind of treasuring, because if you transfer down a 21 into a 20 into Superior, the 20 transferred is always going to be a little bit weaker than the 21 untransferred. So if you transfer down immediately, you're actually going to lose a little bit of damage. So the first one you want to use as itself, and then if you can make a second one, then that one you want to transfer down.
Okay.
And then your total amount of coins will determine whether you settle for 20 for a while, or if you want to go straight up for 21 or straight up for 22. That'll be determined by how many coins you have at that time, how patient you are, and how much you want versus need the damage. So I would be like, okay, I'm going to get like unique 12% or 15% on a 20 star and just stay there for a while, take that upgrade, and then kind of like see where my character goes, see if my character still like needs damage. It's a bit more of a mental thing, because a lot of people can't just sit on a unique 20 star thing. They'll either want to make the potential way better, or their fingers will be itching to tap it, which is understandable, but you have to look at the bigger picture and like always go back to, do I need the damage or do I want the damage? Does my character benefit right now from getting that damage? Is it just a mental thing, or can I kill faster in a region, or can I actually kill a boss a bit faster? Can I support my team better? Can I make a certain BA that's required to carry my weight on Black Mage or something like that, right? But if you have a whole account with solid potentials, solid flames, and everything is like 19, 20, or 21 around there, or like 17, 18 arcane, something like that, you can meet the requirements for Black Mage. At that point it really becomes just determined by how much you practice and how good is your positioning and how good is your reaction speed and positioning, stuff like that. Yeah. That'll be the big determining factor, not whether like your one ring is 20 stars or 21 stars. Like, all the little bits help, but that one little thing is not going to be the deciding factor. But what will be the deciding factor is if you boom it and then you have to buy another one and you have to like settle for 17 again or something because you didn't have the money. That could be the deciding factor, but at the other end. So it's always kind of like a risk assessment mathematically, and then a risk assessment for yourself. What are you okay with risking, and what are you not okay with risking?
Yeah. Okay.
That keeps it a little vague, but I'm hopefully showing you more like what the options are and what the possibilities are, and then ultimately it's your decision. I can really tell you what to do, right?
Yeah.
But if you know where the calculators are and you know how to calculate your risk and kind of look at that, then you'll do fine.
We'll see what happens when I actually have more kind of treasure rings or not, and then deal with it then.
Yeah, step 1 is that foundation, get that drop rate, and do the bosses, do the weeklies, and then whenever an event comes around, then you'll have options, and then you can make decisions. The worst part is if you don't get the drops and you have like limited money, because then you have to, by definition, take higher risks, and you are just more likely to end up with no gains, and that's what we're trying to avoid, because that typically leads to just lack of enjoyment and more burnout, and be like, what am I even doing this for? I've been playing hard every day for the last 3 months, and now it's just all booms. And it's because you're either lacking a plan, or lacking backups, or lacking funds, or a combination of those things, and then or lacking patience sometimes, then that can lead to just not getting any progress, which again for some people is good, because maybe the game isn't for you. It's for a specific type of player who can deal with those roll with those punches, and if you can't, then it might be better for those people to just play something else, go throw some balls at shopkeepers in Pal World or something. Maybe that's more up their alley. So it's maybe not necessarily a bad thing, but
Okay. About general like superior Gallic stuff. So I have, like I said, I have 2 belt backups, one earrings backup, and then I just bought the pendant, but it's just sitting in my inventory for now. I haven't started or anything.
Until you have 4 set, the pieces are actually weak. They're not even that good, but then 4 set is like amazing. So then you want to get them in there,
Like right now, I just have the belt equipped because I didn't really have a better belt anyways. So
base belt is.
And then I have I don't know, a decent amount of reinforced and pink bean belts. I have too many, I think, but I don't know like what's the general strategy there. Do I just wait until an event and then just try and tier up one of those randomly, or some of those, or
so the more superiors you have
now with the backups instead of fodder.
There's a few different options, and it all comes down to like how many pieces do you have. So if you can imagine a situation where you have 1 superior belt and you have whatever, let's say like 20 pink bean belts or something. There's really only one option that makes sense, which is trying to get a high Star Force pink bean belt and transfer it into the superior. You could do it at like 18 and then go down to 17, but it doesn't really make much sense, because you could just Star Force and safeguard the 17 up, and then it'll probably be around the same cost and way less hassle. So if you do want to transfer, you transfer at least like 19 to 18 down, but if you have so many, you probably want to go higher. So typically like 21 so that you end up in a safe spot at 20, or 22 so that you end up at 21 are really the only 2 options that make any sense, which means you're making a 22 or a 21 to transfer down, which means that you want to look at your whole account and see like, are there any 22 or 21 projects around the same level that you would do that you don't transfer down instead, because then you would gain more for your money, right? So you'd see that the CRA pieces are those things. You have a lot of backups as well, probably even more than the belts at that point. And if you get into high Star Force, you don't transfer them down, so you keep those gains from those stars. So CRA will always basically be a project before the transferring down. So if you do decide to transfer down 21 to 20, that means 21 and keep pieces will be before that. So CRA all the way up to 21 will be before that. But since we don't transfer the CRA, that does mean that you can go 1 star at a time essentially, or 1 efficient star at a time. Because if you do end up, this way you can spread your risk of, again, like ending up with no backup, right? If someone has 20 bill and you want to get your CRA to 21, and you start on 1 and you just try to roll it up to 21, and you just get unlucky and just 20 to 21 booms, 90 to 20 booms a bunch of times, and you end up getting unlucky on the first one, all your money is gone and you got no gains. Maybe even you lose a star or something. That feels bad. But if you get the first one up to 18, which will like guaranteed, it's like 99.99%, right? To happen. within a certain amount of money, and then you go on the next one, and then you go on the next one, and then maybe you get them all three up to 19, and then you try to jump from 19 up to 21, which is, you know, once you have one up to 20, you don't want to get another one up to 20 because 20 to 21 is actually more efficient for your meso than 19 to 20 is because of the safe spot at 20. So let's say your first one doesn't make it at 21, falls back down to 17 or 18. Or maybe even it seems like in the same situation and as the first one, like you end up at 16. But the first person will have a 16, 17, 17, and the second person will have a 16, 19, 19. So even though you both spent the same amount of money because you spent it with a different plan, that second person actually still gained 3 stars, or yeah, the 4 stars they gained were all stronger than the 1 star that you lost. So even though you didn't end up succeeding in the project, which was getting 21 CRA, you end up stronger rather than the first person who was a little bit more impatient and didn't have the proper plan. And they end up with like a net loss, right? So you want to avoid that because the further you go, the more money you need, the more backups you need, and the higher the chance will be that you end up with a neutral gains or a loss. So you want to try to be smart about it so that you don't want to get baited into, well, there's an event, so I have to do something. Well, maybe not. You know, maybe you need to skip this one. Maybe the risk is just too high. Like if it's 30% off, that's really good for star forcing if you're not going to safeguard. So CRA is typically something that's way more likely, and it's like a good idea to do when you're off event. When you're on 30% off. But if you're going to be safeguarding, then it makes more sense to do it during a 5, 10, 15, just because the 15 to 16 being free every time just save you so much money on safeguarding there. So that's like the grander context of like transferring versus like on the piece itself. But also, if you're transferring down, right, then you want to look at projects that get to those stars and stay there first, because that's a bigger gain. Same thing with the rings, right, with the transferring down. The same thing with CRA, even though it's a different piece, you don't transfer CRA into Superior. But you're always going to be looking at, am I going to keep this 21 or is that going to go down to 20? So back to the belts, like the other situations, if you have 2 belts, what I like to do with if I have 2 belts is keep a 17 that I have with like unique potential, just like you have. This is perfect, right? Like good flame, decent potential. You got the 17 stars. What you can do is you can try to do like the quote unquote cheapest option. There's a bunch of situations of transferring, right? Like so we talked about it before. You can do 21 ping beam belt into 20 superior and then tap it from 20 superior up to 21. You can do 22 into 21. Or you can do, if you have like 6 belts or something, you could just try to tap on a superior belt itself, right? In most situations, you'll have like 2 or 3. So if you have 2 or 3, what I like to do is keep your original belt as what it is, and then do the transfer, but do like the cheapest transfer, so the 21 to 20 transfer, and then try to tap the superior, not transfer it into your existing belt, but into one of the backup belts, and try to tap the backup belt from 20 to 21. That way, if it succeeds, it's a 4-star upgrade, so then you can go hard on the potential immediately. And now your 17-star belt with unique basically becomes a backup for later for 21 to 22.
Okay. So see how many belts I have by the time an event happens, or
and that's why it's kind of good that the CRA happens first and mathematically makes more sense, because it just gives you more time to potentially get more drops, and that will put more people in a situation where you have like, hey, I have like 5 or 6 superior belts. Mathematically, I could just tap the superior belt, and now the superior belt gets in the same situation as the CRA essentially, except for the part that you'll probably still safeguard. Maybe not on the first 2, but then after that you'll start safeguarding. And then you get into a situation where if you get 21, you have a 21. You don't have a 20, right? Because of the transfer hammering down. So then you make money. You can turn your luck into backups, basically into value for your account.
Because it's cheaper if you have enough superior just to tap those and not have to transfer.
Exactly, yeah. If you end up with a 21 through a transfer versus not through a transfer, it's just always that 1 extra star that you will save in money. But if you don't have the backups, it's worth that money because you can pay for the risk on the front end with the 35 or however many pink bean belts you have. And there you can just pay a little bit, but then you're basically you're buying backups essentially. But when you get the backups from drops, you don't have to buy the backups, and then you save that money. So just to finish that example, so I like, if I have 2 or 3, I like to try to tap 20 to 21 on the secondary belt, because if it works, it's worth the transfer. And if it doesn't work, which it still can, it sucks and your money is gone, but at least you could just keep your existing belt, and it's at worst a neutral. It'll never be a negative, right? Because if you transfer into your existing belt, get it to 20, now it's like, okay, now it's a guaranteed upgrade in your hand, 3 stars, but you have 2 backups. And the very next step is going to be getting a 21, probably, or maybe getting your earring up to 20, but a lot of times you can do that in like the same upgrade, right? It's like, well, do I tap to 21 now? And now that 21 booms. Now what do you do, right? Now you have to keep going. You have to keep spending, because now you just lost 17 stars.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at the risk, and it's slower, and some people will just tap their existing one and get it to 21 or 22, and might be tempting to be like, oh, look at that person. But what you just have to remember is, for every person that does that, there's like 9 people that tried that and didn't get it. So I like the slow and steady. Fast and steady wins the race, but that's risky. And slow and steady is a lot less risk and is very close in terms of progress. So that's where I'm looking for opportunities. So belted earring is where you can do that, because you can get the drops. And for ring and pendant, of course, you have to be way more meticulous and take those 20 stars. Don't let anyone get into your head and be like, you need to tap it at 22. It's like, okay, if you see someone and they have like 6 22s and everything else is 17, then you know what they're doing. I'd rather give me like an account where half is 20 star and half is 21. I'd always rather have that than have like a third of my items be 22 and everything else be 17, because that just means you have so much more money left. You'll be stronger, and you'll have so much more money left to focus on your potentials and to focus on your flames on your items.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So basically CRA, and then worry about the GOG stuff as I have, the ability to, or events or whatever.
Yeah, you're always looking for what is the lowest risk to. It's like kind of like a negative outlook, but it's like, what is the lowest chance to fuck me over? And that's usually where you have the most backups. And then once those projects get into the realm of inefficiency, which is basically once you're trying to surpass 21 for the lower level pieces, or once you're trying to like surpass 19 for like arcanes, that's when you're getting into the realm of like, shit's real pricey now and can set you back for months of progress just because of the time gating. So that's when you really want to look at your whole account and look at other possibilities in your character to be like, what are possible alternatives? And just go to the calculator and just be like, okay, how much can this, what does this cost me? And by then your income from your bossing mules is probably higher as well. And then you want to start looking a little bit more, less in the beginning, you'll be like, oh, that's 5 bill, that's 10 bill, and that will have a certain value for you. But then later you might want to look at, okay, this is like 1 week of boss mules. This is like 2 weeks of boss mules. Because sometimes when you look at it like that, it puts it better into perspective. Like, okay, that's a lot of money, but that's like, in 2 weeks I'll have that money back. And it's like, what else am I going to spend my money on? In the beginning, you just spend it as you get it, because everything is just so efficient in terms of upgrading. But then in the middle, you're more like, okay, the next upgrade is going to cost me like 45 bill. Like, I need to make sure, if I want to reasonably make this, that I have like maybe 50 to 60, so I reduce the chances of not making it. Yeah.
So the hypothetical, depending on like, sunny Sundays, if we don't end up getting a Shining Star Force and we get, like just a 30% or 5, 10, 15, then do I just still wait for an event no matter either of those 3 options for the CRA, or like, is the CRA worth doing even if there's no events? Or
I think because CRA you could pretty efficiently do on 30% off or 5 and 15 or on Shining. I feel like there's always one of those events every like at most 6 to 7 weeks. So for me, that's still a reasonable amount of time to wait. But if you look at the numbers in the calculator and you see the difference between the cost, and you're like, you know, that's like an extra week or two of meso, and I'm okay with spending that, then you go on ahead, you know? I'm not going to tell you that you have to wait for events and you can't, because I like the events because it makes it for me that I don't have to worry about whether I need to upgrade or anything. I could just focus on making money. And then when I see an event coming, then I can look at like, okay, what needs to be done? What can I work on? And what are upgrades I can make? To me, that gives me less anxiety and less stuff to think about. But to some people, it's like, oh, the fact that I can only upgrade when there's an event, that makes me annoyed and I want to rebel against that and then just tap all the time. Then, you know, just set projects and make it so that that doesn't control you, you know, but you have to, your personality there matters more, I think, than, so I'm all about like, if you know the calculator, you know the numbers, and you know your own level of like risk aversion and that kind of stuff, then you can make the decision eventually for yourself. And for some people it'll work out, and some people will be tapping off event and be like, oh my god, I'm making no gains, and then their friend who is doing event only will like start surpassing them, and they'll be like, okay, I kind of get it, you know. It makes sense, you know. There's a reason why it works like that. For cubing, I'm usually a pretty big proponent of like off eventing, unless you're trying to really min max and 3-line stuff like WSE, or you're trying to, you know, go for like a whole set of like double drop and meso accessories and stuff, and you're really doing like big projects that could go upwards of like 50 bill. Then I'm like, for cubing, as long as you're, you know, your Star Force is there, then you just do that off event whenever you feel like it, you know, just gamba. I'm totally okay with it.
That ends up being how I lose most of my money, is just buying like 20 or whatever cubes here and there. But yeah, in the event schedule, like having the date to save for is nice, but then when it's like this, where it's like the end of the round of Sunny Sundays that we know, it's like, you know, then having to wait until we actually get the next set of ones that we'll know of. So it'd be nice if they just released like 2 months at a time, you know, like staggered by every month or something, like, you know, but that'd be too nice, I guess.
Yeah, every situation, always when you're like right up to whenever the next month is coming, will always be a little bit like that. I just look at, like, in Korea, they only give them on Monday, they give them the Sunny Sunday for that Sunday, and that's it, right? There's only been like a few events where they actually get like 2 or 3 ahead of time. So in considering that, we're already in a really good situation where we can plan out up to 6 weeks ahead of time, or with big events sometimes 8 weeks ahead of time. But yeah, I think whatever situation ends up in, there's always going to be some up and downsides to it. But I think in general we're in a decent spot, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the main things as far as upgrades go, other than like trying to start getting some arcanes.
Yeah, arcanes is going to be the main thing. But yeah, you already said like you're moving from easy into normal, so you're going to start getting those drops. I think you'll find that normal is pretty close to easy, and then I think you'll definitely find that you have the damage, as long as you learn the mechanics and you learn the things. You probably want to learn, start using blink a bit more as well. Blink and the what we talk about, like the will skill, right? The Erda's will. Those are skills that come more and more into play, where there's like small situations where like, oh, this is actually very useful. It'll keep you from getting knocked back, keep me from getting put into a situation where I might die. So like preventatively, they're very good measures. Staying above the breath in lucid with the blink and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing I'm using it for right now. And then I guess like the Lotus, like phase 2, or is that phase 2? The laser on the ground.
Yeah, 2 and 3 have the laser on the ground. Yeah,
I think those are the only 2 things I use it for now.
Yeah, it'll be useful for Black Mage later a lot, for like when you have very shitty patterns. It'll be useful, a little bit more useful as well for Tenebris, especially once you start going into Chaos Tenebris and the boss fights are a bit longer. The last progression session was offline, but I talked with this person as well, because they played a lot of Final Fantasy, and it's like, even though you have a 3D MMO, the fight is still pretty much 2D, right? You just have a plane that you're walking on, right? You don't really jump over things a lot or crawl under things a lot. It's pretty rare. But in MapleStory, a lot of the times we see the boss fight as like one-dimensional, where it's just left and right, and that's kind of it. And you sometimes hop a little bit, but you don't really do that very much. But the more you get into the boss fights, into Tenebris and beyond, you really just want to start using the verticality and like up jumps, floats, blinks, glides, that kind of stuff, because that will give you a lot more options of like, oh, this is way safer. Like, I don't need an iframe, or I don't need to go to the opposite side of the map, which for you is an option. You know, you could just like super jump and be in the other corner. But again, super jump, you can also super jump you through like 3 things and super kill you. So, you know, there's always some risk involved. But like up jumping and then blinking, floating up a little bit, especially for Dark Null, it's very useful. There's like a really big arrow skill that you have some time to respond to it, but it's very wide. So if you go horizontally, you might still get hit by it. But if you go vertically, you can get over it with like an up jump and a blink, and then just a little bit of an uplink. You can get over it very easily. And because you can see the orbs forming, you know, horizontally, like up in the map, you can see if it's going to be safe or not once you get used to the timing. So incorporating that is also going to, again, just like with the will skill, it's going to make like learning Black Mage a lot easier, because you'll see more options of like, you know, like where are my oh fuck buttons? You know, like where do I run away from this imminent danger that everyone else gets killed by? And then you're like, I have an extra option. Like I can blink here, I can, yeah, float there.
Right. Okay. Then I think the last main thing I had like specific questions about was like the event ending, like the like flames, all the extra flames. I haven't used a lot of them. So I sent like a flame score thing, I think, on Discord a little while ago.
Yep.
But like, should I just kind of throw all those onto like my CRA stuff, since I'll have that for a while? Or like, I have like almost 300 black flames and 100 eternal flames.
This was most of the in-depth exploration stuff, right?
Yeah.
Mostly the second chapter.
Yeah. So like, there's 230 black flames from that, and then 100 white flames, and then from the second part of the event, like the festival thing, I have the 50 black flames from that. So,
and is there, do you have a Windcoin event shop as well left? Because you can buy quite some
I
there.
still need to buy. That was another question, like the symbols and
the symbols
and droplets. I bought out all of one of the droplets, but then since I just unlocked the Arcus stuff, I was wondering if I should try to buy all those symbols over the droplets, or the droplets are more important.
So there's 2 major factors there. One is if you have arcanes and pitched, then flames just shoot up in value, especially black flames, compared to if you don't have those type of equips yet. So in that, with that sense, you might be just behind the curve on getting crazy value there for the black flames. The eternal flames, though, are quite a bit cheaper than the black flames, and they have quite a bit more value for you, because you can very easily get a bunch of stuff to like 100 to 110 flame score, like you said, with CRA stuff that you keep for a long time, and that can give you good value. And the symbols can be a bit misleading, because it could be like, oh my god, 120 symbols, like that's insane, but you get 10 a day, so that's like 12 days of dailies over your life, right? Like compared to maxing and like the 300 days or so that it takes, 312 versus 300 is not like, is that really going to make like a huge difference in your life? But the other thing is that if you say that for every single event, well, now you might do 312 days and someone else might do like 240. So now it's like, well, now it becomes a big deal if it's a lot of events. So how many coins do you have, and how many how many flames you already have, right? And how many flames are already going in? It's very possible that with your current flames, if you use those, that you end up with such scores that it doesn't even matter to consider getting flames over the symbols, because maybe you need like an average of like 50 flames per item to get like 1 or 2 flame score more, according to the calculator, and then it's just not worth it in this situation. Again, like if you don't have arcanes, don't have pitched, then the value of the eternals and the black flames goes down a lot compared to the symbols, I would say.
Okay. I only have 330 coins right now. I think because I didn't really start doing higher tier weekly bosses until like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I won't really be able to get a ton, but I have, like I said, it's going to be like 280 black flames and 100 eternals that I'll just get all at once from the event.
Yeah.
And
the episodes are gonna get like replaced, and Superior
Yeah.
Golux is just barely going to gain anything. So you're mostly looking at your CRA and your and the dump pen is already high, so you're looking at mostly just CRA and the Pink Bean Cup. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
So you'll have like 50 eternal quality flames for each of those.
Uh-huh.
So if you look at exclamation mark flames, and then get cost calculator, if I had to guess, that's probably going to get you like around the 100 for, I don't know why he changed these numbers here. For rent, eternal, rainbow, 150, armor, 100, let's say like around 100. Yeah, see, average of about 47. So I think that'll get you close to 100 on those 4 pieces, which if you look at like progression and you look at flame score, advantaged, for like the lower end, like 95 plus, that like gets you set for up to like 275 plus-ish, I would say.
Okay.
So I would probably buy as many of the symbols as you can, and then if you have some left, you can buy some more flames.
Okay. And how about droplets? Are those like, am I going to be worried more about getting the actual boss drops than I am with the droplets for now?
Well, you can, yeah, buying the droplets with the mesos is of course very expensive. You can definitely buy some droplets with the regular coins, right?
Yeah, I think I already bought all of those. So.
You bought all those, yeah.
Yeah.
Then we'll just have to look at how many you have available in the wind coin shop, because it's up to 750. How many wind coins do you have? And did you get everything for this week that you can?
I think I have. There's like a few. I have to do Princess Snow, Akechi, and maybe like Will. Still this week, so that's not a ton, but
yeah, that's
I have
just Will
30 right
basically.
now.
You have, sorry, how many do you have? 230?
330.
330. Okay. And how many symbols can you buy? Because the numbers are like all different.
Let me go to the.
It's like 15 coins each.
Sorry, I was in AFK land in the abyss, so I'm gonna switch maps.
Oh, 10 for Arcus. So I'm just saying, tell him to get into C10A pub pickup groups and then just get carried for red dots so it still counts. But I don't know if you've already done normal, then you can't do that, right?
Yeah, I think I did normal gloom already, but maybe for dark.
maybe for dark null you could try, yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So Arcus symbols, I mean 132 of those with 10 each. I'm not gonna get that many, anyways.
Yeah.
And probably similar story with Cernium, because I didn't start buying those until like last week. I could buy 155 of those still. So yeah, I mean I'm more worried about not having enough coins than which thing to buy, basically. So,
yeah, exactly. Droplets you can buy 50 each, right?
Yeah, I bought all the arcane droplets in the wind coin shop. I still have 45 stone droplets that I haven't bought.
Gotcha. Okay. And you had like 300. Yeah.
Yeah, 330 right now. So I mean, it's not a huge deal since it's like the last day, and I'm not really gonna get a ton from it. But yeah, the symbols, it makes sense if it's only like a week or two of symbols. Then
yeah, and the stone droplets, you basically just count them as 50 mil each, right?
Yeah.
So you're basically getting 3 mil per coin if you buy those.
Yep.
And then for the symbols, 1 day of symbols, what is that worth to you? I don't know if you can put that into mesos, but you'd have to buy 10 for 1 day, and they're 10 coin each, right? So that's 100.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, not a big deal. I'll just do whatever.
Yeah, it is pretty hard to say like exactly what you need to do, but since you're still doing, if you have some droplets already and you bought them from the other shop, and you're not even or barely starting to get the drops to be able to afford the items and everything, there's no high pressure on there yet, whereas the Sacred Power is a big time gate towards getting to the higher level bosses and the free stat. So I'll probably be leaning towards the symbols.
Okay. Yeah, I've got 73 arcane droplets and 34 stone droplets right now in my inventory.
Yeah, so it's like 100, a little bit over 100. So that's like almost one armor or half a weapon.
Yep. Okay. I don't think I had any more specific questions. Like professions, I have Meister Alchemy, Mastercrafts, and Smithing.
Mm-hmm.
I did Alchemy first just for the double potions,
Mm-hmm.
and then now I'm just like working on Smithing, and I'm like, well, am I gonna actually keep doing it every day before the patch changes where I don't have to? So I'm wondering if I should actually just wait or.
Well, for smithing, what's the aim for the smithing?
That was just, the crit damage just because, and I was already doing alchemy. And the accessory crafting is just sitting at level 10. That one's more of the, I don't want to do it until the next time it updates, but since I didn't really know how soon I would need to start crafting Meister rings, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if another 2 months or so goes before the patch happens, I don't know exactly when it's supposed to happen, but or more.
We had the roadmap. Yeah, someone
Like
asked yesterday as well.
Did it happen in Maple Sea or something? I don't really know the timing of things, but
Yeah, they mentioned it here. I don't know if they called it crafting. Crafting at the same time in interactive worlds. Crafting system fatigue improved. Yeah, that's version 249. So
okay.
that should be like mid-March.
Okay.
So.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's not terrible. I guess
Yeah, the one
then,
thing, if you're gonna keep up making the whetstones for smithing, you might cut more into your potential for meisters than you think, because those are like 10 each, right? And
yeah, I've been trying not to craft a lot of those just because I don't have that many GSEs. Because I don't, like I said, I don't farm a lot, so all my GSEs come from dailies and like all the Legion mules and stuff.
Yeah, I went the Meister route because I have so many primals, so I was like, oh, easy free rings on my fire poison mage. But then the first 3 boomed, or the first 2 boomed, and it took like the third one to see the first 21, and then I was looking at how many grand spell essences I had left, and I was like, oh, this is actually not a great amount. So then you want to start being really careful for like future projects. So like I said, it is transferable, right? And it's really like, do I want the damage or do I need the damage? And it's really kind of like a last ditch effort. But you don't want to have it be like the thing that you always hold on to and then never use, because then it's also pretty useless. So it is a really hard line to roll. But since you still have upcoming and like growth potential with the slime ring and everything, I would pause on that and hold on to your GSCs just for a little bit longer. But yeah, a little bit more weight on the traits, sadly. Or in the professions, yeah.
And then does anything stick out on like stats wise? I don't know if we really looked at the overview of where my stats are at. But I think Star Force was I'm like a little bit below on Star Force as far as the progression goes.
Yep.
And then attack is like on the low end up, but that'll go up with Star Force.
Yeah, with your weapon as well, like the base. You've got good percentage attack, but you could probably get at least like one more line on the weapon. But with a new weapon, with an arcane weapon, that'll go up a lot. The flame will be quite a lot better. Flame will be almost double, I think, right? It'll be like 106, I think. 106 flame for tier 6.
Okay.
So you get it to the 400 plus attack mark. Yeah, that'll catch up. And star forcing is a lot of weapon attack. Any star forcing past 17 is huge. So as soon as you start getting that CRA up to 21 and the Superior Gollux and maybe some other stuff like Kana Treasure Rings like up to 20, 21, you'll see that attack go up really quickly. So that's like
some of the absolute stuff I didn't get all the way up to 17 in the last event just because I ran out of money. Should I do any of that off event? or just again wait, just like whenever I do the CRA, do the Absos 2 to 17?
Yeah, it'll probably be like the step right before the CRA, and then the CRA jumps up to 19 right after, something like that.
Okay.
Just to make sure that you take that easy damage into like Hard Loosen and Hard Will. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All
right.
Do you switch your passive hyper skills around between mobbing and bossing?
Yes. Yeah, I do, depending on what I'm doing. If it's just like doing dailies, I'll leave it on the Octo Punch or whatever, but if I know that I'm going to be, you know, like doing 30 minutes in Grandis or something, then I'll actually switch it to Hook Bomber.
Gotcha.
But most of the time it's on Octo Punch being leveled up.
Yep. Yeah, just double checking because of the.
Yeah, when I took it, it was on.
Yeah.
It was on Hook Bomber. Okay. And then honestly, sometimes I'll leave it if I'm doing like MPE or something, just because.
Yeah.
Helps because I don't, you know, I don't kill those like one shot, but.
Yeah, we've got the character presets and everything coming, right? So hopefully that'll
be nice.
easy make all of the presets easier as well. It'll be a good time as well to kind of look a bit more critically at everything just when you're setting it up, and then once you've got it set up more critically, then you know it'll be like a single button switch. So then all of your worries, as long as you set it up properly, then all of your worries will be out the window. And the one thing I hope that they add is familiar presets in that, but I still have to kind of push for that one. See if they can do that, and maybe unlock all of the presets for familiars as well, instead of having 3 of them behind like a familiar paywall, because that's really weird.
Yeah, it's just, like the money from switching is nothing, but like just having to switch everything and
first we get something. Yep. Do your culvert. Why was my score lower? Like, oh, I didn't switch my hyper stats. Shit. Yeah.
Do my weekly bosses and forget to switch out of Droprate stuff.
Or the Legion. The EXP Legion. You're like, why did that take longer? Yep. Very relatable.
Also, looking at this now, Dom pendants. So I like, what should I be doing with those? I just have the one that I'm wearing that has decent potential in flame, but I have one backup. What is the backup for those really used for? Is that like going into Superior, or what?
Yeah, going to Superior Golics. There is the option of transposing them into Sweetwater pendants so that you can offload the backups for your secondary pendant onto Sweetwater and not onto Dominator, so you can hold on to more Dominators to get the Superior fodder faster. But I don't think for most people that's as necessary, because you can start jumping towards normal Vihila and hard Vihila a lot faster in GMS compared to KMS because of the healing fems. So that makes your income for Daybreak pendants come in quite a bit earlier, which are also level 140 pendants basically that take up the spot. So that means that you can hold on to just a Dominator for a second pendant and then move into hopefully like a Daybreak second pendant way faster to get that set bonus going with Twilight Mark and maybe with the Slime Ring. And then all the Dominators won't have to go into backup for higher Star Force Dominators, but can all go towards being fodder for Superior Golics instead.
Okay.
So yeah, I like the Sweetwater route for characters that aren't gonna get into Vihila and basically not gonna get that far. And then I like the transposing a lot, because then all you need is one Dominator and basically you'll have eventually a guaranteed 21 transposed, right? Which will be, which will save you from dozens and dozens of, or hundreds of normal arc runs every single day. But if you're planning to aim past that, then it goes more into progressing towards Vihila and you know, maybe settling for like eventually like a 17 or a 19 Dominator pendant or something if you have a few backups, and then that's like a good sweet spot to save the rest to make sure that your Superior can go into 20 and 21.
Okay. All right. And that's all I got.
Okay. Yeah, I think we covered a lot.
Fairy Heart. Should I buy that, or is it not necessary for where?
Oh, Fairy Heart. Yeah, I would buy that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I have like 3.5 bill, so I think I should be able to easily get enough.
Yeah, Fairy Heart is always one of those things. If you're in a situation where you're not sure if it's worth it, then you'll feel really bad, and you'll know 100% that it's worth it by the next time it comes around. That's typically how it goes.
Spend money on anything else, anyways, until a Star Force event, so I'm not going to lose anything really.
Yeah, and in terms of gaining very easily 21 or even up to 27% stat. That 5 bill initial cost is very high, but how much is it going to cost you to gain like 27% stat among all of your items combined? That's going to be more. So in that case, it starts making sense pretty quickly for your account and for your character. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Okay. Any other last questions?
Nope.
You get everything?
That's it.
Well, if anything else pops up, just reach out on Discord, and we can reach out. I can help you out, or during the Twitch chat, you know where I am, so you know where to find me. So always
Sounds
be available. Good. All right. Good luck with everything.
I appreciate it.
Yep. You're very welcome. And well, yeah. Good luck and have a good one. See you around.
All right. See ya.
All right. Bye. Cool. One more cough. So hopefully, if you are in a similar situation, or maybe not at all, it was entertaining enough and you learned a thing here and there, maybe a perspective, maybe a specific advice on a specific situation, helps you out in making a decision for yourself. As you see, a lot of times I'm not telling someone exactly what to do, but I'm just laying out the possibilities, the scenarios, the options, and then what I would do in those situations. But ultimately, it's still up to you. If you feel like that's too slow, I'm very slow and meticulous in how I play. If that's too slow for you and you feel like you want to go faster, then you go faster. Just be aware you're taking more risk, and as a result, you could hit harder and you could also crash harder. And if it's up your alley in terms of the speed and everything, then you'll be safe. You can still get unlucky, but at least you gave yourself the higher chance of not getting unlucky. So if the session was entertaining, hopefully you'll pick something up. If not, check out one of the other videos. I've got a few hundred of these sessions. Of course, some of them are older, so make sure you check on the date of the session if you want to make sure that it's accurate. Don't be too scared of looking at sessions of people who are playing other classes. I know a lot of times people are like, where's one of these classes going to be doing a coaching session? You can pick up a lot even from sessions from other classes, even if you think you don't. Maybe the specifics of like the V matrix or the hyper skills won't be as applicable to you, but in general, how do you go to the next stage? How do you go about upgrading with limited backups? How do you work on setting up your account for success in terms of bossing mules and Droprate and stuff? And all of those things, it's basically exactly the same if you're playing a different class, So what I'm saying is watch all my videos. No, I'm just saying don't be too scared of thinking that it's not going to apply to you just because you're playing a different class. If you're playing a non-reboot, then definitely that's a way bigger red flag, and there's going to be a lot more stuff that might not apply to you, and no guarantees for non-reboot servers. So yeah, if you want one of these sessions as well, check out the description of the video or check out the Twitch chat and use !coaching over there so you can see all the prices and all the possibilities of getting sessions. If you want to win a free session, make sure you leave a comment saying that you would like to win. Please include your Discord name so I will know who to contact. At the end of the month, I draw 2 winners. That reminds me, I haven't drawn the winners for January yet. I need to do that. Still in the first week of February, okay? So, I feel like I'm still allowed. But yeah, do that if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. And I'll see you either on the next video or live over at twitch.tv/Scardor, where I stream every day and answer all your questions and just hang out and we just maple together. So thanks and see ya.